The first part of the journey is along the M54, which is labelled to North Wales, and yet it starts just the other side of Birmingham, having been on the toll road, which doesn't cost much, about £3 or £4, and it really cuts off a lot of the delay around Birmingham. This is a significant part of this route because as we go over the brow of this hill, in the far distance we see the hills of Shropshire, and in the distance the hills of Wales. For me, this really is a watershed moment of this journey, as we can see the hills and the open countryside of Shropshire and Wales ahead of us. However, as the countryside gets more beautiful, the language gets a bit more complicated. The Welsh seem to be very fond of consonants at the expense of vowels. Nevertheless, all is forgiven, and with beautiful countryside like this, who cares? Croeso I Cymru. Welcome to Wales. Well, hello, this is John Neal here, and this is Wales, and this is Tyllullyn, which is the southern part of the Snowdonia National Park, and it is a stunning day. It's not always as nice as this in Wales, I have to tell you, but this is remarkable. It's just absolutely beautiful, and the mountain at the back here is Cadaridus. Looking forward to a few days to stay here. And yes, this is the stunning view from our balcony. The lake is not that deep, and this time of the year, late summer, early autumn, it's not too cold, and a number of people are in swimming, albeit in wetsuits. Well, I'm here in Wales, in, well, I'd pronounce the place, but it's very difficult. McClunketh, look, I'm calling it Mucky Clunky. It's a beautiful place, it's quite fascinating. It's a little bit hippie, it's great, it's just wonderful. Up and down the main street there's little cafes and craft shops, and we've just been to a shoemaker, a bespoke shoemaker, it's quite famous actually, on the high street, and it's just brilliant. I love it, it's great, it's a smashing place. The weather's quite nice. This backdrop's nothing to what if there is around, so we're just going off round the corner to the coast, but we will definitely come back here. As expected in Wales, it rained one day, so we went to Dolgelly. And what better thing to do than to have a cream tea, scones, jam and cream. Lovely. Fortunately, one day was hot and sunny, so we set off for the coast and stopped at Aberdyfi. Sometimes it's good just to get to wide open spaces and blow the cobwebs away. And where better than Borth Sands on the south side of the Dyfi estuary. We then set off to go back to the hotel, and sat-navs being what they are, we ended up going in completely the wrong direction and headed off towards Aberystwyth, which is the site of some ancient settlements and has a fine castle. In the 13th century, Edward I built a number of castles in Wales and along the border. Many were not built from scratch, but in fact were improvements on fortifications that were already there. Aberystwyth is also a university town, and these college buildings are being restored at the moment. Along the seafront in Aberystwyth were flags of many nations, and here's just two for you to enjoy. On the way back, we noticed this massive water wheel which was built in the 18th century to work bellows to make a furnace. It seems an odd situation for such an industry being so remote, and all the materials would have to be brought in. But there certainly seemed to be plenty of power in this waterfall. It is about a 120-mile drive to get back home, and we decided to go up to Lake Bala and then take a small road, the B4391, over the top of the hills on towards Shrewsbury. And once we're in Shrewsbury, well, we're well on the way home then. Well, this is the B4391, and it's quite wooded, and it climbs up onto the hills when the tree line will eventually disappear. Further on we get more of these fir trees growing and fewer of the broadleaf trees, and a crucial point in any of these journeys going up over the hills is that if there's a cattle grid, then you know that you're entering wild country, and here's the cattle grid straight ahead of us. Since the cattle, and mostly sheep to be honest, are now free to graze wherever they like, there are no hedges and very few trees around. Many people find this sort of landscape rather bleak and intimidating, but actually I just find it quite fascinating. Anyway, let's put my foot down and let's go. Well, the road has now got to about 1,500 feet, which is pretty high for any road in Britain. And so we decide to pull over and have a closer look at the landscape.
Well, here I am on the way back home in the middle of Wales, and this is the middle. Just watch these cars coming in. That's the road. The road I've just come along, and we're taking a by road over the top of the hills. It's wonderful. The heather, the sheep. Hello, sheep. Say hello. No, they're not saying anything. And I'm parked just down here for a minute, just to take in the the wonderful, it's just huge open spaces. Fantastic. I'll just swing around slowly. You can see behind me the heather and the moors on the top. I can hear, that sounds like a raven to me. Of all the crows, we've got rooks, crows, jackdaws, but up here you're likely to see ravens. Great big, the biggest of the family of the crows. Anyway, we're on our way home, and I thought we'd just take this interesting route over the top, and it's proven to be everything I hoped it would be. Love it. I love it. I love it.
And so now you could say it was downhill all the way, and to have had such wonderful scenery and beautiful countryside behind us to get home was going to be a bit of a disappointment.